Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And it is the start of a brand new week, and only 4 weeks till Christmas. Can't wait, because I've bought all my presents. Aren't I smug? Anyway, we've got a story here to start the day. It's somewhat serious. It's a serious issue, and I think it does need addressing, but particularly because of the current policies in place against it. And we're looking at the way that women are treated, women and girls are treated in the law in Scotland when they are the victims of abuse or of physical attacks and things like that. And it is more than just what the Labour Party is saying, because it's they who are making this call for a change. But we're also going to take a look at why they feel necessary to call for this change, because obviously it is a problem, and it isn't a good problem. It's not it's not a problem that should be ignored. It's one that definitely needs looking at. So we'll do this. So seems a bit of a serious start to the week rather than something light, which I usually kind of prefer. But I do think it's important. So here goes. So Scotland needs to fundamentally change how it tackles attacks against women and girls, says Labour. And it does. You've got a situation where it's kind of not taken seriously. This is really the reality, I suppose, of where women find themselves at the moment in modern day Scotland. It's almost like a feudal state. The Scottish Labour Party says research into how Scotland handles sort of physical attacks against women and girls absolutely must change. There's that Pauline McNeill, Labour MSP Pauline McNeill. She's highlighting the issue. A report on violence against women and girls in Scotland has highlighted the need for a fundamental change, Scottish Labour has said. The party's research has been published to coincide with the International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women on Saturday. Now, this happened over the weekend. Now, where you have to look at is the SNP's Scotland. Violence against women. I mean, you don't attack women. A man should not attack a woman, physically. Obviously, 99% of the time, we're physically stronger. The damage we can do to a woman is way more physically than a woman generally can do to a man. And what kind of self-respecting man would do it anyway, But it does exist. We have to acknowledge that it happens. But it needs to be stopped. However, you have a party in charge that says it's perfectly fine for a man to hit a woman. And indeed, they've even agreed that the police think this, because we have the evidence of a man hitting a woman in the face, drawing blood, right in front of a policeman. And the policeman did nothing because the man was wearing a frock and the policeman didn't want to be seen as a phobe. So he let this man hit a woman, which seems to be acceptable in modern day Scotland, as far as the police are concerned. You also have a system where a man can attack a woman, and then his punishment is that he's locked up with other women. Again, this is something that's happened many times. It's become controversial, but it's only now, with massive public outrage, it's actually stopping. But they won't They don't want to reveal the figures of the number of times the number of physical men are locked up with women. And yet it seems a very strange state of affairs that a man who attacks a woman should be locked up with women. And yet there you go. This is modern day Scotland. And of course you have cases where a man can R a woman or sexually assault a woman, and he will walk free from court simply because he happens to be under 25. Again, modern day Scotland. It's almost as though they don't want women to be protected in law. They're still cancelling women. You don't count. You're not protected by Scottish law because the SNP absolutely loathe women, it seems. So yes, I think Labour are right to fight for this. It follows a year-long consultation with academics and those with lived experience, with Scottish Labour now making a range of recommendations to improve women's safety. I suggest number one recommendation, vote the SNP out and tell Scottish police that when women are attacked by men, they arrest the men, and especially when that happens right in front of the police officer concerned. And you don't allow someone to get away with it just because they're wearing a pretty frock and call themselves Susan. The report said law reform and a significant shift in social norms are required to tackle the issue of DV against women. The social norms, not hitting women, is a social norm. To have it any other way is anathema to decent civilised life, surely. It also calls for the current Scottish Government funded programmes to be monitored and regularly evaluated to ensure they remain effective. Nothing this government does is effective, as we know. Pauline McNeill, Scottish Labour's Justice spokeswoman, pardon me, said legal protections also must be strengthened to reduce and prevent the distribution of intimate images, often known as revenge prawn, or whatever. It's one of those words that YouTube don't like, so we call it prawn, you know. Anyway, justice reforms outlined in the Scottish Government's Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Bill, which increases protections for vulnerable witnesses, could be strengthened by giving a right to legal advocacy for the victims of the party said. Ms McNeill said they need to act to bring to an end violence against women and girls could not be clearer. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't happen at all, but it does. But it shouldn't be enabled. It shouldn't be promoted by a government that loathes women either. The problem here is both a societal problem, but it's also an executive problem. Their policies are pushing it. Their policies are making it easier to do and the punishments less harsh. That is policy. That's not socialising and changing society and changing the norms. That is a government pushing it as part of its agenda almost. Anyway, they say the consultation has heard firsthand from victims' organisations, women, young people who have experienced this at the hands of men and have heard about the need to act throughout our society. She said that is why Scottish Labour is calling for action to keep women and girls safe in our schools, workplaces and public transport. With crime on the rise, there's a desperate need for a joined-up approach to tackling violence against women and girls. It's time for a fundamental change to our society to keep women and girls safe. Let's make it happen. Well, you know, having policemen arrest people, not putting men in prison with women, jailing people who commit crimes, that's always a good start. To do what the SNP are doing shows absolute misogyny on an industrial scale, and where they are quite clearly saying that women do not deserve to be safe or protected in law. And that, I'm afraid, sadly, is the policy and reality for many women. And it is an appalling indictment of the attitude that this SNP government has got to women of Scotland. And do you want your wife, your sister, your daughter, your mother, your niece, your friends to suffer needlessly just because the SNP hate women? Who knows? Says the Scottish Government has been contacted for comment, but there has been no comment, and there won't be, because they know the awful truth is that what's happening is down to them. Coming up. Now, of course, if asked, the SNP would say, oh no, everything in the garden's rosy, it's not like that at all, blah, 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 blah. And they try and spin it and tell their usual lies. But we all know the truth. We see it day to day. We see the headlines. We see the court cases. We are aware of what reality is. A reality for some women in Scotland is, to be blunt, awful, terrible, criminal behaviour against them. And this sadly seems to be the norm and seems to be the policy of the SNP. Makes you wonder why, doesn't it? Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. It's, as I say, it's a bit of a serious one to start the week, but it is, I think, nonetheless important, and we all need to be aware of it. We all need to sort of do the best we can for women of Scotland, and the best we can do, of course, is to vote out that bunch of evil misogynists that call themselves the SNP. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and look after yourselves, especially you ladies. Absolutely be aware of everything you do. Bye.